Just a few comments before we begin our program. I'd like to thank a few people, starting with our MACP Awards and Citations Committee. They are a tremendous bunch of fellows to work with who have done a tremendous job to help bring this program this evening. And I'd like to thank Tom Hendrickson, who's been always so helpful, and really to thank the person who really runs that office, and that's Shirley. Thank you, Shirley. Gratefully appreciate it. I don't believe Dick Malash is here, but a special thank you to Total Petroleum, who helps support our awards and citation program annually. Each year they're a contributor, and it helps to defray the cost of the program. And we're very appreciative of Total Petroleum, so when you're out there motoring around, remember Total. Okay, we'll begin this evening with President Zimmerman, newly elected President Richard Steele. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 18th annual awards ceremony of the MACP. And among the awards presented this evening are the 4 police medals which form the core of our program. They are as follows. Presidential Citation and Medal are awarded for outstanding and extraordinary professional and personal service to the criminal justice system, the law enforcement profession, and the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. Criteria for the award may include long-term contributions to criminal justice and law enforcement via membership and involvement on MACP committees, boards, or related bodies, sponsorship or stewardship of significant grant program or legislation important to law enforcement, significant training accomplishments, or other widely recognized criminal justice endeavors or accomplishments. The recipient's activity shall be of such significance as to demonstrate a personal dedication and commitment above and beyond the normal professional duties and interactions. The Police Cross. In recognition that the recipient made the supreme sacrifice, giving his or her life in the service of his or her community, state, and country in the highest traditions of the law enforcement profession. The Police Medal of Honor. In recognition of an act of extraordinary heroism which occurred while the recipient was fully aware of the great risk to his or her own life in a police action above and beyond the call of normal duty. The Distinguished Service Medal. In recognition of meritorious service in the performance of duty, distinguishing himself or herself, the department, and the law enforcement profession by exceptional accomplishment. The Citizens Valor Award. Awarded to private citizens who voluntarily come to the aid of a police officer or to another citizen at great personal risk to their own lives in situations arising out of criminal activity or other life-threatening events wherein the citizen involved has no personal motive or stake in the outcome. During this evening's award ceremony, 9 officers will be receiving Distinguished Service Medals, 5 officers will receive Medals of Honor, 3 officers posthumously receiving the Police Cross, 1 citizen will receive the Citizens Award of Valor, and 1 chief will be receiving the Presidential Medal and Citation. As I complete the narrative on each of the award recipients, with the person accepting the award, accompanied by a representative from the sponsoring agency, please approach the podium. Please come up the middle aisle to these steps here. Our first award this evening, the Distinguished Service Medal recipient, Sergeant David Geiger, the Holland Police Department. On November 17, 1994, Ottawa County Central Dispatch Authority received a lead message from Kent County Sheriff concerning a homicidal suicidal suspect possibly en route to Holland. The message indicated the subject may be armed and en route to a local business to harm his wife and her boyfriend. In addition to 2 Holland units dispatched, Traffic Sergeant David Geiger responded on his own initiative. Sergeant Geiger arrived quickly and initiated a felony traffic stop on a vehicle matching the given description. The sergeant managed to control the situation prior to the arrival of backup, despite resistance to his commands by the suspect. He found a 7.62 caliber SKS assault rifle with 2 fully loaded 30-round clips in the vehicle. Subsequent interviews revealed that the suspect fully intended to enter the business and shoot his wife and her friend before committing suicide. With a workforce of over 100 persons, numerous innocent bystanders could have been victimized. Sergeant Geiger's actions demonstrated both exemplary initiative and the highest degree of professionalism, for which the MACP proudly awards him the Distinguished Service Medal. Accompanying him to the podium will be Chief Charles Lindstrom of the Holland Police Department. Recipient, Distinguished Service Medal, Officer John Wachowski, Wall Lake Police Department. On March 9, 1994, the Wall Lake Police Department received an E911 call from an incoherent resident. Police, fire, and ambulance personnel were immediately dispatched to the scene. Being first to arrive, Officer John Wachowski entered the home, detected a strong odor of natural gas. Finding a 6-year-old child who was vomiting profusely, he immediately carried her outside. He re-entered the home despite the substantial potential risk and found 2 disoriented adults wandering about in the living room. He directed them out of the house and began searching for the remaining adult and 4-year-old child. He managed to locate them in a bedroom and led them to safety. Officer Wachowski courageously rescued 5 persons from the gas-filled residence. Medical authorities indicated that only a few more minutes of exposure would have resulted in a disaster at that residence. For his display of exceptional bravery in the face of personal peril, the MACP proudly awards Officer John Wachowski the Distinguished Service Medal. Accompanying him to the podium will be Chief Ken Boreal, Wall Lake Police Department. Distinguished Service Medal, recipient Lieutenant Gregory Williams, Detroit Police Department. On March 24th, 1994, Lieutenant Williams was off duty and in plain clothes when he stopped at the Lions Party store to speak with the manager. Having closed the exited the business, the store manager and Lieutenant Williams were confronted by 2 youths, one of which was armed with a small caliber blue steel handgun. The armed youth announced a holdup and fired 1 shot at Lieutenant Williams and the manager. The lieutenant drew his weapon, shots were exchanged, and the youth sustained a gunshot wound to the jaw. He was subsequently arrested, bound over for trial, and 5 counts of felony charges. Lieutenant Williams' meritorious actions may have saved the life of an innocent citizen and resulted in the apprehension of a dangerous felon. The MACP is proud to honor him as the recipient of the Distinguished Service Medal. Accompanying him to the podium will be Deputy Chief Danny McCain of Detroit Police Department. Next award, Distinguished Service Medal, recipient is Officer Jerome Wilson, Detroit Police Department. On January 12, 1994, Officer Wilson, off duty and in plain clothes, exited the Paradise Food Store. He noticed 2 men walking toward him, who subsequently produced weapons and demanded money. Officer Wilson had surrendered his money and offered his car keys when one of the armed men demanded his jacket. Fearing that this would reveal his firearm, Officer Wilson bolted to the other side of the vehicle, drew his weapon, and identified himself as a police officer. An exchange of gunfire resulted, in which Officer Wilson successfully shot 1 subject and managed to take into custody the other. Officer Jerome Wilson demonstrated exemplary courage under the most difficult of circumstances, resulting in the arrest of 2 armed felons. The MACP has proudly recognized his actions by awarding Officer Jerome Wilson the Distinguished Service Medal. Accompanying him to the podium will be Deputy Chief Danny McCain, Detroit Police Department. Next award, Distinguished Service Award recipient, Sgt Gary Custer, Oak Park Department of Public Safety. On April 4, 1994, officers of the Oak Park Department of Public Safety were dispatched to an armed robbery of a fast food restaurant. Responding officers learned that a lone gunman had fled westbound from the scene, and a description was broadcast. Sgt. Custer, an administrative officer, responded to the area on his own initiative. Having observed and followed the described vehicle, a short pursuit ensued, ending when the suspect struck a fire hydrant. The suspect fled on foot into a residential area and was quickly pursued by Sgt. Custer. Having rounded a garage, the sergeant was confronted by an armed suspect who aimed, fired, and missed. The gunman again fled and was subsequently arrested after barricading himself in a residence for several hours. Sgt. Custer's initiative and decisive actions resulted in the arrest of a career criminal. He displayed exemplary courage in the presence of great danger. The MACP is proud to honor him as the recipient of the Distinguished Service Medal. Accompanying him to the podium will be Director G. Robert Seifert and Deputy Director Steve Fairman, Oak Park Department of Public Safety. Award, Distinguished Service Medal, recipients, Officer Bradley Lacrosse and Officer Michael Whitney, Sault Ste. Marie Police Department. On October 1st, 1994, the Sault Ste. Marie Police Department received an alarm of a structure fire. Officers Lacrosse and Whitney had exited the building. The officers entered the building without the aid of breathing equipment, managed to locate an unconscious male subject amid the flames and heavy smoke. They successfully removed him from the burning building, in which he would have likely perished without any further delay. The actions of Officer Bradley Lacrosse and Michael Whitney demonstrated exemplary courage that brings credit to themselves and the law enforcement profession. The MACP is proud to name them as recipients of this Distinguished Service Medal. Accepting the award and accompanying them will be Chief Scott Fitzgerald, Sault Ste. Marie Police Department. Distinguished Service Medal recipients, Corporal Michael York and Corporal Michael Kristoff, Dearborn Police Department. On April 8, 1994, Corporal Michael York, a member of the Dearborn Police Department Special Operations Unit, received radio information describing a vehicle and suspects involved in attempted auto theft in the city of Dearborn. Corporal York responded to the registrant's address in Detroit and located the suspect parked on the street. Following the arrival of Corporal Michael Kristoff of the Dearborn Tactical Service Unit, both officers approached and ordered the four occupants out of the vehicle. The driver began to flee, fell down, and became engaged in a struggle with Corporal York when he pulled out a .22 caliber revolver and pointed at the officer. Corporal York managed to reach out and grab the gun, and the hammer fell on the web of skin between his thumb and forefinger, preventing him from firing. Corporal York and Corporal Kristoff were finally able to subdue the large and violent suspect with much difficulty. Both of the officers displayed quick thinking, bravery, and professional competence under extremely difficult circumstances, which could have easily resulted in serious injury or death. The MACP is proud to formally recognize their exemplary courage by awarding them the Distinguished Service Medal. Accompanying them to the podium will be Chief Ronald Diesel, Dearborn Police Department. Citizen Award for Valor. Recipient, Mr. Sander Scarelli of Armada. On November 4th, 1994, the City of Richmond advised area departments of a drive-by shooting in their community. A suspect's description was broadcast from the incident in which an innocent resident narrowly escaped serious injury or death. On November 8th, area departments were again alerted to a BOL for the suspect, identified as Donald Dehar. He had expressed intentions of shooting and killing an acquaintance in the city of Armada. He eluded detection and arrived at the back door of Papa's restaurant where his intended victim had previously worked. Dehar encountered Sander Scarelli, who, sensing trouble, denied him access to the restaurant. Dehar raised a sawed-off 12-gauge shotgun, which Mr. Scarelli managed to wrestle away from him. He called for help. Dehar was subsequently arrested by officers of the Armada Police Department and assisted those officers in securing the suspect. The presence of the armed suspect at the restaurant posed a great danger to both the employees and patrons there. The courageous action of Sander Scarelli prevented a potential tragedy of disastrous proportions. It is with great admiration that the MACP presents Mr. Sander Scarelli the Citizen Valor Award for his selflessness act of bravery. And accompanying him to the podium will be Chief Joseph Golubieski, Armada Police Department. Our next award is the Medal of Honor. Recipient is Officer Joseph McDonald, Detroit Police Department. On May 21st, 1994, Officer Joseph McDonald, off-duty and working with the U.S. Coast Guard, encountered an overturned watercraft in the Detroit River. It was determined that 5 persons had already been pulled from the water, but a woman and child were trapped in an air pocket underneath the overturned vessel. Officer McDonald determined that the high waves and cold water temperatures made an immediate rescue attempt necessary. He dove into the frigid water, equipped only with a flotation jacket. His efforts were encumbered by loose equipment, which blocked the cabinway entrance, and he became entangled in some fishing line. Officer McDonald did manage to locate and retrieve a 4-year-old male child. After completing that rescue, he returned to the waters in a courageous but unsuccessful attempt to save the deceased adult female. Officer McDonald was subsequently treated for severe hypothermia following his rescue. He clearly risked his own life and was successful in saving that of a small child. It is for the extraordinary heroism that he exhibited that Officer Joseph McDonald of the Detroit Police Department is awarded the MACP Police Medal of Honor. Officer McDonald cannot be with us tonight. Accepting the award on behalf of him will be Deputy Chief Danny McCain. Medal of Honor recipient, Police Officer Earl Suppin, Jr., Clay Algonac Police Department. On the night of August 26, 1994, Officer Earl Suppin, Jr. was off duty and enjoying dinner with his wife at a local restaurant. Officer Suppin noticed a woman having much difficulty while she was swimming in the St. Clair River. Upon calling out to the woman and receiving no response, he quickly stripped to his underwear and dove into the swift current of the St. Clair River. Officer Suppin caught up with the woman some 200 feet from shore. It was with a tremendous effort and a great deal of difficulty that he managed to accomplish her rescue from the deep and treacherous waters. He did so fighting through the pain of an abdominal muscle injury. The victim was revived, treated, and released from the hospital on the following day. Clearly, Officer Suppin's extraordinary heroism saved the life of another that day. The MACP proudly recognizes his courage and awards Officer Earl R. Suppin, Jr. the Medal of Honor. Accompanying him to the podium will be Chief Kenneth Canode, Clay Algonac Police Department. Honor, Police Officer David Jakeway, Detroit Police Department. On May 10, 1994, Officer David Jakeway and his partner responded to a radio broadcast from Redford Township Police Department regarding the presence of a breaking and entering suspect. The officers proceeded to the area of the Detroit Open School, where they spotted the suspect removing an AK-47 automatic rifle from a gym bag in the playground area of the school. Numerous children in the schoolyard began to panic upon seeing the man with the rifle. Officer Jakeway, fearing the subject was about to shoot at the children, identified himself as a police officer to draw attention away from the children and to himself. The man pointed his rifle at Officer Jakeway and fired one shot. Officer Jakeway took cover and returned one shot, which mortally wounded the suspect. Officer David Jakeway's extraordinary courage in purposely drawing the attention of the armed subject to himself was indeed conduct above and beyond the call of duty, for which the MACP proudly awards him the Medal of Honor. Accompanying him to the podium will be Deputy Chief Danny McCain, Detroit Police Department. Medal of Honor, Trooper Paul A. Royal and Trooper Brian T. Mullador, Michigan State Police. On October 18, 1994, Jack Kidd Jr. shot and murdered 2 victims and wounded a third in the Seney, Michigan area. Trooper Royal and his partner, Trooper Mullador of the Manistee State Police Post, were on patrol when they observed the suspect in a stolen pickup truck. They followed the suspect until he turned onto a dirt road, which led to a residence, and at that time they decided to initiate a traffic stop to prevent the potential of hostage taking. Upon seeing the patrol vehicle's overhead lights, the suspect abruptly stopped, exited his vehicle, and opened fire on the troopers with his rifle, striking their vehicle at least 3 times. The troopers returned fire, striking Kidd 3 times. Trooper Mullador sustained a wound to the head, but continued to fire at the suspect. Both troopers exhibited extraordinary bravery in this most dangerous of situations. The MACP is proud to honor Trooper Paul Royal and Trooper Brian Mullador with the Medal of Honor. Accompanying them to the podium will be Colonel Michael Robinson, Director of the Michigan State Police. Our next recipient is the recipient of the Presidential Citation and Medal. This individual has had a long and distinguished career in law enforcement, beginning his career in 1961 as a deputy sheriff for the Erie County Sheriff's Department of Buffalo, New York. Through the years, he was a parole officer in the state of New York, inspector with the U.S. Treasury Department, an assistant professor of criminal justice with State University of New York, chief of police in Jamestown, New York, chief of police in Charleston County, South Carolina, and ultimately ending his career as chief of police and director of public safety in Royal Oak. Our recipient of the Presidential Medal and Citation is a long-standing member of MACP. He joined MACP in 1979 and during his tenure has served on various committees, including Organized Crime Committee, Special Committee on Deadly Force, Public Safety Directors Committee, Ethics Committee Chairman, Committee on Accreditation and Licensing, Statewide Committee on Drug-Free Schools, served as MACP as Sergeant at Arms. He's also served on the MACP Board of Directors for 12 years, including his tenure as Second Vice President, First Vice President, President, and Immediate Past President, and Chairman of the Past President's Committee. Our recipient has also many national affiliations, most noticeably his service on the IACP Executive Committee and the Executive Committee of the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. He holds a bachelor's degree from Canisius College, Buffalo, New York, a master's degree from State University of New York, and is an ordained permanent deacon from the Sacred Heart Seminary, Detroit. He currently is the Director of Pastoral Services for the Archdiocese of Detroit. It is with great pleasure and pride that we award the 1995 MAC Presidential Citation to retired Director John H. Ball. Our next award is the Police Cross. Recipient Trooper Manuel H. Fields, Michigan State Police. On August 27, 1994, Trooper Fields of the Jackson, Michigan State Police Post was struck and killed by a passing motorist while enforcing traffic laws on I-94 east of US 127. The MACP Police Cross is hereby posthumously awarded to Trooper Manuel H. Fields, who made the ultimate sacrifice by giving his life in the performance of duty. Accepting the award on behalf of Trooper Manuel's family will be Colonel Michael Robinson, Director of the Michigan State Police. Our next award, the Police Cross, recipient Trooper Brian S. Agelski, Michigan State Police. On July 11, 1994, Trooper Agelski, while in the performance of his duties, was fatally injured in a patrol car accident. Trooper Agelski and his partner were responding to a call of an injury accident when their car was struck at an intersection in St. Clair County. Trooper Agelski made this ultimate sacrifice in service to his fellow man, ending an outstanding but all too short police career of 5 years. It is with the utmost respect that the MACP posthumously awards Trooper Agelski with the Police Cross. Accepting the award on behalf of the Agelski family will be Post Commander Lieutenant Diane D. Whip of the St. Clair Post and Colonel Michael Robinson, Director of the Michigan State Police. And chemical spray. A short time later, Officer Flahey spotted the vehicle fleeing from the jail area, and with the assistance